Okay, I'm going to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. Present are members Bub, Cost, Fraser, Floyd, and Mr. Johnson for Mr. Marmee. The first item of business we have is Ordinance 1627 to provide for the issuance of $1,120,000 of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying the cost of various street and parking lot improvements, sidewalk construction and lighting improvements, and all necessary appurtenance thereto, and declaring an emergency. Mr. Johnson.
This is a one-year bond anticipation note, and about a month ago I was here with a $1.1 million note renewal, and I said that it would be merged in with the second note, which is this one, next year, and we'll issue bonds to eliminate this debt. But this was used, as it said, for street improvements, sidewalk, parking lots, and things of that nature. We're renewing it for one more year, and then it will be bonded.
Okay.
Motion.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bud, second by Mr. Fraser. Can you tell why is there the emergency clause on it?
Because there is a due date,
Okay.
and nobody will do anything to process this instrument until the legislation is passed.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? From the audience? So a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay. The second one is Ordinance 16-28, providing for the issuance of not to exceed $1,730,000 East Main Street improvement refunding bonds and declaring an emergency.
This will refinance the East Main Street TIF, which is known by everybody as the Longberger TIF. The TIF is no longer working properly, and the city is obligated to pay the principal and interest. So we're reissuing the bond, we're doing a refunding issue, which will allow us to bring the payments down a little bit because the interest market has changed since this initially was issued. So I'm estimating we will save about $250,000 over the length of the debt by reissuing this. We could even save more because with the Brexit in England, the markets are in turmoil right now, so we might be able to do a little bit better, but, we'll see. But this is something we really should do.
Okay.
Motion.
Okay. Motion by Bud, second by Cost. And again, is there a due date or a deadline? Okay.
And there's a lot of people that are involved in this, and no one really will start their portion of the processing until the legislation's in place.
Okay. Any questions from the committee? Yes, Mr. Fraser.
How long will the bond be for? And what are we targeting?
This one, I think, is going to be a 20-year issue. We have a 25-year issue, and I think we have 18 years left on it, so it's really not extending it that much longer.
And then was the original $3.2 million, is that what?
It was, yeah, back when this all began. This will be the second time we've had a refunding issue on this.
Good.
Any other questions from the audience? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. All right, next is Resolution 16-64, appropriating monies for the current expenses of the municipal corporation. Director Sloan.
Good evening.
Hi there.
This is a matter of, we had a defendant who had a remote breath device stolen from his vehicle, and he paid us back for that amount, so we would like to purchase another one.
Motion.
Okay.
Second.
Is that you, Ryan?
Yep.
Okay. Motion by Bud, second by Fraser. Are there any questions or comments from the committee?
Just for clarification, so this is we paid this, this is allocation just to purchase it, no real money out of taxpayers' dollars, just an allocation of funds?
Exactly, and this actually was originally purchased with grant money from the state of Ohio, so there's
No loss.
No loss, yeah.
Anything else from the audience? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Resolution 16-57, appropriating monies for the current expenses of the municipal corporation. Mr. Rhodes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's $450 in the NSP revolving loan fund that we want to move into Services General to help with a demolition project yet to be determined.
Okay.
Motion.
Motion by Doug,
Second.
second by Frazier. Any questions from the committee? From the audience? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And finally, a late item, Resolution 16-58, appropriating monies for the current expenses of the municipal corporation.
Thank you, and we appreciate Council's willingness to hear this being a late item. We had a retirement in the traffic department, and the one thing we always try to do is get an employee their money as quickly as possible.
Motion.
Well, as I understand it, we can't, can we do a motion tonight? I thought
No, well, I can, you can hear it, and
we
then you
can
have,
discuss it, but,
and then Rule 11.
and then we'll use Rule 11 next week
bring it up.
to expedite it, so, to make sure, because we usually expedite things that are money returned to people.
But that's it, it's $115 for an
I
employee
know,
to work
I
for
know.
the city that's
Okay.
retiring.
So, anybody have any questions about it? Okay, this will just be on the agenda next week, and
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you hiring somebody to replace him?
Well, that's a very good question. In the traffic department, there was 4 traffic technicians. We had one technician that transferred to the water department. Now, you have to hold that position open for a period of time because they have the right per the contract to come back to that position. And then this particular individual who just recently retired, he had some surgery done, came back, took some vacation time, all contractually allowable things, and now he's retired. So I'll probably be before this council to make some changes in street and traffic, and it's something that I'm talking about today. I met with the superintendent Friday, met with the assistant superintendent. We're going to sit down with the unions, and I've talked a little bit to Mrs. Floyd about it, a little bit to Mr. Bub about it, a little bit to Mr. Cost about it, and we'll talk to Doug and a few other people, and then we'll bring something forward to you. But to answer your question, yes, but probably in a little different format than just a traffic technician.
So eventually you'll talk to me?
No. Eventually, yes, I will, Councilman.
okay, that does...
That was a good question.
That does it for the Finance Committee. Services next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll call the Service Committee meeting to order. Up first is ordinance number 16-26, changing the zoning classification of certain real property generally described as 965 Mount Vernon Road, City of Newark, Licking County, Ohio, from that of RM, Single Family Residence Medium Density Zoning District, to GD, General Business Zoning District. Mr. Rhodes, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This property here is adjacent to the Pizza Cottage. This is just the beginning of a process. We ask that the committee pass it so it can go to council for the first reading, and then come to the Planning Commission, and then we'll give you guys an opinion on it, and then it can come back to council again.
Okay. Any questions for committee members?
Motion.
Second. Motion by Floyd. Second by Bob. Any questions from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor of passing this on to full council, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes 5-0. Up next, resolution number 16-55, authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service to participate in the ODOT winter contract for road salt and declaring an emergency.
Seems kind of odd when it's 92 degrees out to be talking about road
Not to
salt
be.
for winter.
Not to be?
So, anyways, this contract period would run from about October through next winter. Currently have about 2,000 tons of salt on hand. We're comfortable with taking in another 1,700 tons. This is the lowest price available, and we have to give them an amount of tons that we want to take in, and we're comfortable with an additional 1,700 tons.
Okay, you said we have 2,000 on hand now.
That's correct.
What do we normally have on hand in July?
Well, it's a full salt barn currently, normally about 1,000, but the reason we have additional is because of the fact it was a mild
I
winter.
know they had a really light one.
Yep. Yep.
So we normally get about 3,700 ton. total.
Some years more, but we're anticipating that this should be enough for next winter too, with what we currently have. But you know what?
You know, Indian snow dance, we don't.
If anybody's got a crystal ball, it would be, it's not a perfect science.
All right. Any questions from the committee?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Bub, seconded by Floyd. And Mr. Fraser has a question.
Is this going in the barn? Is that where we're putting?
Now, what'll happen is we'll enter into contract to buy it, and then we have it reserved per contract. So as we use what's in the barn, then we can refill, and we can do that anytime during the winter. It's basically a commitment that we're going to buy X amount of salt. So if it comes March and we haven't taken it all in, we're still obligated to take it all in and put it in the barn just like we did this year.
Excellent.
Any other questions from the committee? Any questions from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Rhodes. And that concludes Service Committee. Up next, the anxiously anticipated Ways and Means Committee.
So we'll call the Ways and Means Committee to order. President is Mr. Bob, myself, and Mr. Frazier. We have two items. Our first item on the agenda is consider ordinance number 1629, levying an additional income tax of 0.25% for the purpose of raising general operating and capital improvement revenue, specifically and exclusively dedicated to the general construction, reconstruction, resurfacing, and repair of streets, roads, bridges, and sidewalks, and for the capital improvement needs of the Police Department and Division of Fire within the Department of Public Safety on all taxable salaries, wages, commissions, and other compensation as set forth herein, as well as on all taxable net profits earned by businesses, professions, and other activities as set forth herein, providing for the collection and enforcement thereof. Mr. Rhodes.
I think you did a nice job reading that. That pretty well states it. We're asking for a 0.25%.
Okay.
0.15 of that would go to streets, bridges. 0.10 of that would go to police and fire, split evenly. And this cannot be used to pay for buildings such as the police station or the fire station. This can only be used for capital improvement needs. Capital improvement needs such as police cars, which in our estimation we should probably be buying about 6 per year. Could be used for body cameras, could be used for technology. Fire department, council was kind enough to allow me to bond for one fire truck. We really need 4 more, or 3 more on the minimum, because they're all old, and there's currently no additional dollars for fire trucks until we pay off the one we just bonded for, which incidentally was a 7-year bond. We didn't bond at 10 as the past truck was, we bonded at 7. So there are needs, and we can't spend the money, and our roadways are getting further behind each and every year. So that's why we ask the electors to make a decision.
Do you have a kind of an estimate of what the revenues would be?
Barb Jobs is working on that. You know, you can do a lot of what-ifs and ors and things. We think probably about $1.5 million, $1.6 million per year for roads, and about $400,000 each for police and fire. Again, that's an estimate. It's a very complicated thing to figure out, because as the income tax comes in, you've got to take the fees for the processing of the tax off, and then you also have to take the safety levy dollars. So actually, if this passes, there'll be a little additional dollars there for the safety levy for hiring police and firefighters. But again, not enough to meet the needs.
Do you have a motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
When is the deadline? This will have to go to the ballot for November.
Well, when I talked to Director Sasson, Law Director Sasson, he mentioned that tonight would be the last night we could bring it forth and let it run its normal course to get on to November's ballot. The administration isn't necessarily set in stone that it has to be November. What we're trying to do is create a conversation about needs of the city and how best to fund them. And if there's any other ideas out there to give alternate funding ideas, we are open to it. If there's any cost-saving measures, such as what this council undertook with the administration's lead when we combined the 911 centers or when we combined street and traffic, those were cost-saving measures. But frankly, even with those measures in place, it's still not enough. You know, it's a hard thing to put out to the voters that we want you to pay a little bit more dollars. And it would be very easy for this administration and administrations in the past not to broach this subject. But the needs are real, and they're not getting any better by ignoring the subject. So we decided to have a conversation with council about it.
Any other questions?
Yeah, can I ask a question to the police chief?
Yeah, please do. That's exactly why they're here. Police and fire chief are here.
You're next, don't worry.
Yes, sir.
How's it going, chief?
Oh, good.
How many cars are we looking at? Do we have a plan for a purchase cycle per year? What are we
Yeah, what we've put together, the command staff, the police department, we're putting together what we call an aggressive replacement program for everything we have, capital needs. So we've looked at lots of things, our handguns, our shotguns, our rifles, tasers, the desktops, laptops, cruisers, marked cruisers, unmarked vehicles. And what we're looking at presently is we could do 6 marked vehicles a year and 2 unmarked vehicles. An interesting statistic for you is that as of last year, 48% of our vehicles were over 80,000 miles. Statistics show, and tracking from other police departments that have kept track of this, that over 80,000 miles, your maintenance costs go up 20%. In 1 year's time, we went from 48% of our vehicles being over 80,000 miles to 55. In 2002, we started tracking this, and at that time, we probably had in the numbers of probably 30% of our vehicles were over 80,000 miles. So you can see it's steadily, we're falling behind.
How many vehicles are in the fleet that are operational?
56. I just did a rough count on my spreadsheet, and it looks like 56 total vehicles that we have.
And how many of those are marked versus unmarked? Do you know?
Well over half are marked.
Is it about even split?
Probably 50-50, maybe a little more are marked. We've even looked at ways of decreasing the fleet, but we can't come up with a solution to decrease the fleet while still being able to maintain service.
Okay. As far as all the additional guns, tasers, laptops, computers, general desks maybe, is there anything that doesn't need replaced, or is this just a continuing need that has not been addressed, and so we're just so behind on the buck that we have to do something aggressive in order to meet?
We do have to be aggressive on this, and one of the things that we've looked at is, and we've come to council before asking for $100,000, $150,000 to replace computers, things like that in the past. Instead, we're going to chop that up and we're going to budget it. By doing this, we'd be able to budget it yearly so that our costs aren't crazy 1 year and not at all the next, so that we can plan on it steadily. So one of the things we're looking at is what's the ideal number of each of these items that we have, what's the average life of those, and then we spread it out over time.
Is there a dollar figure per year that you would need?
Oh, you're more than willing to give me. We can always send it. And this is just the things that we currently have. This isn't looking at any technology needs, that there may be extra dollars that we could look at, body cams, which has become a huge topic in policing, that simply the body camera itself isn't the cost, it's the storage that costs so much money. So it would allow us to look at those things and increase our efficiency.
So 6 marked cars a year, 2 unmarked cars a year. So we're looking at 7 to 8 years. We have the fleet up to date. What's next? Just maintaining, continuing that purchase program?
Well, in the aggressive replacement program, I can't talk tonight, it stays steady forever. you start rolling in cars at a certain number, and then cars age out and can be auctioned at that point, so it always stays the same. So we've put the numbers down so that we can do something steady all the time. That way we don't have spikes. Spikes are what hurt us when it comes to capital improvements.
Is there a life expectancy for these cars?
We've got average lifespan figured out of 5 years for a marked vehicle and 10 years for an unmarked vehicle. And I can tell you, I get emails daily from other departments in the state of Ohio that are willing to sell their old, worn-out cars with 80,000 miles on them.
You turn them down?
Yeah, well, we don't have money to buy used ones or new ones, so.
Problem solved.
But they're saying that at 80,000 miles, they want rid of them. So,
As far as the other equipment, is there a priority as far as the replacement of guns?
we can prioritize our list based upon the dollars that we have available. Obviously, cruisers are a huge thing. Computers always are. We know that there's a shelf life on computers that they need to be repurchased, so. Your turn.
I know that.
Okay.
Fire chief, you've got a perspective too.
That's right. Now, this is something that we've been really thinking about for a while. The capital needs of the fire department are extensive. The situation we're in now has been created over a long period of time. The difference here with myself is the fire equipment that we have currently is very expensive to replace. It's a specialized type of equipment that you just can't go out and buy on the road. They cost hundreds of thousands of dollars each. However, they do have a life expectancy no more than 10 years according to NFPA 1901 standards. Now, that's a standard. It's not an OSHA requirement, but a standard that is put forth nationally. We're outside those means specifically. We've been working with Director Rhodes and Director Spurgeon and the mayor and everybody very carefully to express what our needs specifically are. The fire department has about $4.5 million in capital assets as far as equipment, as far as fire trucks and the EMS vehicles. We've provided a replacement plan that when you talk about goals, there's smart goals. They got to be realistic. We have a plan. It's very difficult to implement a plan where funding is not part of that situation. We have significant needs right now in the apparatus that are currently first line out apparatus on the road today as we speak. We have 6 fire trucks currently, and 4 of the 6 are over 100,000 miles. Our annual maintenance budget right now for the past 10 years or so has been about $110,000 to maintain these vehicles and keep them on the road. Now, that's preventative maintenance as well as something has broken on the truck that we hadn't prepared for. We have to pay for that. Specifically, and I think Chief Connell said it very well, as the truck gets older, more maintenance costs ensue. I think everyone would know that with their own personal vehicle. Our current maintenance account now is down to about $25,000, and we have some bills that haven't been paid out of that 110, so we're going to run out this year of maintenance money, which shows you the age of the fleet and the situations that we're having. It's not that they're just everyday common occurrences. We've been working carefully with the EMS billing money to replace EMS transport units. Just to give you an estimate of what an EMS transport unit costs, they're right around $200,000 a piece. We do try to buy some equipment, heart monitors, suction units, portable radios. All these things cost an astronomical amount of money. There's nothing that we can do. Emergency services is an expensive endeavor. So we've got ourselves in a hole right now, significantly, and we obviously have other needs in the community, and I'm well aware of that, and I'm sure Chief Connell is as well, that we do want to pave streets. We want to have other nice things in the city as well. There's got to be a common ground where we can get everything done and still provide a good, safe working environment for our current employees. We would really benefit from this money in a number of different ways. We can start instituting our plan, moving forward for apparatus replacement in a safe time, making our apparatus going out of service as a very safe reserve apparatus. So when one's in for maintenance, the reserve apparatus goes into service that day as a frontline truck until it's done. Many times these trucks have a lot of maintenance. They need to be safe and on the road and have a lot of moving working parts, pump testing, ladder testing, all kinds of things happen daily at the fire department. They cost money to keep these things where they need to be. Just significantly, we keep track of everything as far as our maintenance costs on spreadsheets like this. Exactly what's being done, what it costs, and where our money is. There is no money that we're spending that isn't spent directly on maintenance in our maintenance budget. We're very particular about the way we spend our money, and that it's very, very public for anyone that would like to know how we spend that money. However, we don't have enough to maintain the current fleet. We need to get on a schedule to replace these apparatus. In the long run, it would be cheaper than driving something unsafe and continuing to dump taxpayers' money into keeping something on the road. So we've worked with Director Spurgeon and Director Rhodes. They've been great to try to keep our fleet where it is today. It's becoming very, very difficult to do that. And I appreciate Director Rhodes. We do have 4 immediate needs and vehicles that need replaced, and the minimum cost of these type of vehicles is $450,000 and up a piece. We are trying to be more efficient as well with the current vehicles we have that are still in decent shape, is maybe refurbishing them for a fraction of the cost of replacement to try to buy us some more time. Now, that doesn't buy you another 10 years, it might buy you 5, but the truck will be refurbished at a lesser rate. So we can try to get through this rough time until we're on a preventative plan to replace trucks that's more financially capable.
As far as the EMS building and the replacement of the EMS vehicles, would you need this money for the EMS replacement, or is it more looking at the fire department side with the fire trucks, as well as the rescue and the tower trucks, and then the equipment that goes along with that, or is it all encompassing?
It's all encompassing. Yes, we're using the money dedicated and it's legislated through the EMS billing to purchase an EMS transport vehicle. However, the money annually that's allocated in the percentages of the legislation don't pay for one vehicle. It helps to bond the vehicle and make those payments. However, we need to purchase 3 more medic units pretty quickly. And those are $200,000 apiece. Now, we have 6 total medic units that we have in the city. 4 of them are in service, 2 are reserve. The 2 reserve are in very, very bad shape. So we're trying to replace them. And like I said, Director Rhodes and myself and my staff have worked very, very carefully to start replacing those when we can. It's just not fast enough. We're putting quite a few miles on our apparatus every day. The city of Newark makes 10,300 fire and EMS calls annually. That's a lot of road miles. That's a lot of transports. It's hard on the vehicle sometimes. We're out in the snow and the rain and the wind and the storms and all the things that you would anticipate that we would be out in. It's hard work on a vehicle. So it would all be all-encompassing. Not to mention capital needs specifically. For us, cancer prevention right now is a significant thing that we're looking into nationwide, worldwide, cancer prevention in the fire service, and being able to launder our fire gear after a fire and prevent those carcinogens from getting on your skin. Fire departments are pushing towards 2 sets of personal protective equipment. So if there's a fire at 8 o'clock in the morning when you come on shift, you can put a clean set on while you're laundering your other, and you don't have to put dirty stuff on your skin. There's significant studies that show. So that money would also be used to make sure we're outfitted in our hose, the gear for everybody as far as their personal protective equipment, SCBA usage, that's our air packs that we wear, masks, all those things need replaced and are capital need. They last longer than 10 years in some cases. Bunker gear, our fire gear, protective ensemble, is a 10-year max, and it goes away. We throw it away after 10 years with NFPA requirements. So we would be able to get on a pattern of replacing fire gear as well. This money would absolutely be a great advance forward towards being more progressive and not kind of a reactive thing. I like to be proactive, not reactive, and this is a huge step in the right direction for the fire department.
I like that about you. So, priority number 1 as far as equipment. What is the number 1 priority? Is it a fire truck, tower, rescue unit? What is priority number 1 in the next?
We have 2 fire engines. We have our tower ladder downtown. Our big ladder that's downtown is 21 years old. It is due for replacement or refurbishment. Replacement is $1.2 million. We were looking into refurbishing this truck at more like $350,000. So I'm trying to be very efficient there. We have an engine at Station 4 right now that literally I'd be more than happy to have anybody meet with me during the day. I'll show you our fleet and what we're talking about. But there's significant rust and holes in the floors and those types of things where it needs to be replaced to be safe. I mean, different exhaust fumes coming in the cabs and those types of things. So when we move forward, ladder 1 refurbishment, and we've got an engine 4 replaced. Engine 3 at the West End Station out at 1800 West Main Street is in decent shape, and we're going to try to refurbish that as well to buy some more time. It's 10 years old and approaching 100,000 miles. So we have significant, we're right at that bubble now where we're going to be in some dire straits unless we do something specific. The other option is that we shut that engine down and don't have fire engine in service if we don't have one to drive. So I'm excited about this opportunity that we've put forward tonight. I think that it puts the fire department in a great spot with capital improvement needs. The rotation of, and I know you mentioned years down the road, there's always that very expensive need. As you can see, the fire trucks cost a lot of money, and they won't be purchased all at once and in 10 years all again. These are piecemealed over time based on that truck's hours and mileage and basic overall physical condition. So yeah, currently we've got 4 trucks at 100,000 miles and we had a brand new fire truck that doesn't, obviously, which we're very, very appreciative of. It's been great for the fire department and the service to the community, so thank you for that. But the ladder truck downtown is extremely expensive to replace, and we need to start thinking about making it right again.
So, over the next 5-8 years, you see an exponential need to replace this equipment, to get an aggressive replacement strategy, and then after that exponential increase of spending money, it's about maintaining everything and getting a cycle going of replacing equipment as it comes due and making sure that we maintain everything.
Absolutely, and I think that we really forward think these things through with time frames and schedules and things, and we work with Director Rhodes and others on financing and how we can space these things out to get what we need out of the money allocated. Right now, it's just the requests at the moment aren't fulfilling the need. And it's, I need one more, and I know Director Rhodes looks cross-eyed at me sometimes about, I can't provide that right now, we just don't have the opportunity to do that. And now we have a maintenance budget issue, which we'll have to deal with very soon as well. I'm not going to make it this year on maintenance, on our allocated funds for that. So I hope I answered your questions.
If I may ask a question of the service director, is this based on going back to the capital improvement breakdown of 85-15 next year budget? Is that what this plan is?
Yeah, our intention is to go back to the 85-15. Some of the things we won't have in next year's budget is we won't have the 27th pay period. So that'll help. Tax collections are up a little bit, but we shouldn't get too excited about that because we had to change capital improvements, we had to do rainy day fund, we had to do a couple other things just to balance the budget so we didn't lay anybody off. Yes, this is predicated on us going back to an 85-15.
So there'll be additional capital improvement to go along with this was passed.
That's correct. I would finally be able to buy Buster some snowplow trucks. Give you an example, the last snowfall we had 4 trucks that broke down. 4 trucks that broke down in the middle of the night. The things are getting older and they're more expensive. A truck is probably $60,000 to $70,000 for a snowplow truck, and that's shopping it very aggressively. So there are needs.
Questions?
Yes. Let me run a counter proposal by you. So, 2014, we had the 0.15% increase on the ballot. About 7% was the difference between what was the yes to the no vote. That represented $1.6 million. So with that, if we did 75% to streets, 25% to police and fire, you're looking at 1.2 million to streets, and you're looking at 400,000 to police and fire.
Well, again, I would like to confirm those numbers with Barb Jobs, because if you're taking simple math, what you're saying would make a lot of sense. But when you have to take in the cost of administrating this off the top first, and then you have to take the safety levy off, and then you come down to your split, that's why we're waiting for the real numbers to come out of Barb's office.
Not done yet either. And so we're talking about property tax as well. So property tax, I talked to the auditor.
We haven't proposed a property tax at this point. Now,
Yeah.
I'll tell you the reason we haven't is because with the income tax, the people in fixed income wouldn't be affected. and the people who travel from out of town and work in Newark would pay for that, because they travel our roads and they could use our services if they're in a wreck. That's the reason we made the decision to go with a income tax. Now, let me say this, if council has another idea that seems to gain the support of council, we're open to listening to that, and we're open for the dialogue, and we're open for the discussion. You know, the one thing that this proposal does not meet, it really doesn't, even if this passes, it still does not meet the total staffing needs of the police and fire department. We're still down firefighters, and we're still down police officers. With this income tax, the one thing that should be kept in mind is if more income tax comes in, then the safety levy would yield a little bit more tax. And I'm kind of waiting to hear from Barb what that additional yield would be, you know, and maybe just out of that, we could maybe hire another police officer, another firefighter. Again, maybe. You know, we don't have that number. But go ahead.
Okay, so $1 million per $1,000 increase, then it'll be worth $800,000 for my simple math. And so with that, with 75% dedicated to capital improvements, 25% dedicated to parks. Parks is pulled out of the general fund. So parks currently takes up $558,000. So that's a $200,000 net gain in the general fund budget, for which you could use for firefighters, police officers, what have you. The other portion that I would like to highlight as well is the credit for tax paid reduction. That's 891.08 in the codified ordinances. Just reducing that by 0.1% would also yield less payback, in which we can also reap the benefit of that in the general fund as well. So looking at those numbers of a 0.15% increase, a $1 million increase, and a credit for tax paid reduction being further reduced. So basically, if you get the 0.15% in and you reduce the credit paid back, everybody's guaranteed to pay 1%. So instead of paying 0.75% like it is now, with the increase, with the reduction, you pay 1%. So you're looking at $1.2 million for streets, $600,000 for capital improvements, in which you can use anyway, $400,000 dedicated to police and fire, evenly split, $200,000 for parks and recreation, in which you could have a net gain in the general fund, and then you can also have a refund reduction, which would also free up the general fund. Does that sound like a reasonable proposal?
That would be a proposal that could be presented to council, and they could make a decision on that, yes.
Can I interject for a second, Madam Chair?
Yes.
And I think there's a lot of ideas floating around out here. I just want to clarify. Is the emergency call, do you need this in next week, or is this 3 weeks then?
We need to have this in, well, let me say this. The need, the term need is what the city needs. We need more dollars for paving.
And I'm just saying time,
But yes, Ryan, I was going to get to that. So if we hesitate on this, we will be on the May's ballot, or the next primary ballot, whenever that is, if that's April or May.
If it's not next week.
If it's not next week. If it doesn't come out of committee tonight, the way Director Sassen explained it to us late last week, is that we would be into May. And we made the determination to bring this forward tonight to try to hit November's ballot. But let me say this, if you pass this out of committee tonight, and then, Mark, you want to put in a different proposal, or if Jeremy has a different proposal, or anybody else has a different proposal, those proposals could be entertained and exchanged out. There could be a special council meeting called, or a special committee meeting prior to the council, if they wanted to, if that was your choice.
See, and that's, I guess, where I was going with that, and I know different people have different ideas, and I'm fine with hearing all of them. I guess what I'm thinking here off the top of my head is I'm in favor of moving this on. Anybody has an amendment, whether it's Mark, Jeremy, Carol, anybody, I think if we could maybe get them by this Thursday, so we can kind of dissect them, and people can throw their amendments out, and then we can vote it up or down, if we have to get it on next week.
Yeah, and if there's a council member
There's so many numbers that are flying around, and I don't think anybody can digest, with all due respect.
No, you're
what
fine.
saying.
I spent 3 days researching that.
Yeah, but I'm just hearing it now, so if I have a little bit of time, I'm sure everybody, make an educated decision on it, and whether it's somebody else's plan as well, because we're kind of down to the wire. So is that something that, I guess, speaking on behalf of the administration, that you would?
Yeah, absolutely. And the only thing I would say is if there are some competing ideas, 3 members of council can call a committee meeting, and I'd recommend that a committee meeting be called prior to the next council meeting. That way, further discussion could be, these ideas could be given the proper time, in order to discuss. You just don't want to do it on the floor of council. You might want to do it at 6 o'clock prior to council. So Mark, get 2 other members of council to go with you, call a special committee meeting, or Jeremy do the same, and then, that way we can entertain those.
And I think with that being said, you would probably, at this point, if we decide to do that, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we'd almost probably maybe want to table it, that people have a new ordinance they want to bring forth, and vote it up or down, and that would be new legislation with the committee before this next council.
Well, I'd ask that you send these 2 through tonight, and then if there's going to be a substitute, do it on the floor and substitute it in. That way, we're down the path. And Ryan, I can't answer. I know exactly where you're going, and I think what you've laid out makes perfectly sense. But without Director Sassen being here, I don't know if a tabling tonight
This
stalls
can
this
always be
process.
voted down.
This can always be voted
Yeah.
down. That's correct.
With that being said, I would make a motion to move this on. And Madam Chair, also for the record, if you could note that, any of this legislation, if people want to bring new amendments forth, I think it's because we're sending this on to the voters, and it's not just a vote of us, that we would get that information by Thursday. It gives everybody 3 days to kind of dissect their numbers with the auditor and cross their Ts and dot their Is, so this body of council would have the weekend to digest it.
You feel that Barb Jobs will have some figures for us in a couple of days?
Yeah, and any other proposals that are brought to the surface by any council member, I'd ask that they get them to Barb too. Now, with a property tax proposal, with a special committee meeting, we'd probably have to ask the county auditor to give us his estimate too. So if that is a real proposal, it will have to be sent over to the county to
He
ask.
has to certify.
He does. He has to certify it.
I don't think, time-wise, I don't think that can happen. You can snap your fingers, I could be wrong, but
Yeah.
I think there's a little work to that, because the last time we did this, that was the original thought, and it changed income
Yeah.
tax, correct?
Yeah, Ryan, I think that took about 6 weeks on its own, by the time we got that through committee, and then they had another 30 days to do that. But again, that's fine. We're open to that.
Yeah.
So I would make a motion, Madam
Make a
Chair, to
motion.
move
I
this on
second
the
that
full
motion.
council.
Are there any questions from the audience?
I don't, yeah, go ahead.
Madam Chair, I think I want to thank Director Rhodes for the presentation, also both of our police chiefs for identifying the needs within our capital improvements. Last time when we worked on the street levy, Director Rhodes and my name were on everything, so obviously people know I'm supportive of giving the voters a chance to weigh in on wanting to fill the needs of our community. And I've shared this with him and the other administrators that I'm supportive of this and moving forward. The concern comes as to where exactly, as the director said, this is an opportunity for us to have a conversation about all of our needs. We've talked about our needs for our streets, of which all of us have received phone calls about, different, especially the neighborhood streets. We know that those are really where people are concerned about. Then we've also heard from our chiefs about the capital improvement needs. But I got to tell you, when this article came out and discussions was going around about the possibility of going to the voters to express and fill our needs, the number one issue that came up to me was how or what are we going to do to tackle the drug abuse issue in our community. And that specifically says the need for more police officers. And so the staffing issue is at play here. And with it being a presidential year, with it being a year where there's going to be high voter turnout, this is going to be an election where the voice of all of our citizens is really going to be reflective because of the turnout. And so I think that we should consider, as a conversation piece, all of our needs as a package to the voters. It being streets, it being capital improvements for the safety departments, and then also being police and firefighters. I think all of these needs should be considered. And if it's a 0.5% that we present to the voters, then I think that's something we need to have a discussion about. There's rare opportunities for us as a council in a public forum like this to have these conversations. So I think we really need to have them because, we have side conversations, phone calls and whatnot, but really to look at all of our needs, I think we should look at some type of comprehensive package that we present to the voters as to these are the needs of Newark for our city, to make sure that it is safe, to make sure that we are moving forward. We have wonderful momentum going on. All the construction happening downtown, construction happening all over the city. That is very positive, very something that is very moving forward and making our city great. And I just think that when we go to the voters, we should present them with something that is a comprehensive plan to make sure that our city continues to be moving in the right momentum and is a complement to all the good things that are already happening. I will say that also, and Director Rhodes and I have had this conversation, is that when we develop a campaign, whatever the final solution is, we really have to make it broader. It has to be a wide-based campaign. I mean, Don, I'm looking at you. You worked on school board levies and things. It can't just be City Hall folks. We got to get people from the Chamber of Commerce, from the Rotary. I mean, everyone who has a stake, Downtown Newark Association, everyone who has a stake in the betterment of our community, they need to be at the table so that we can really have a broad-based campaign with not only just going to open houses, but going to those Kiwanis luncheons, Rotary lunches, and even doing the signage and all the typical things that we do for each of our own campaigns. We need to do this for an issue and voting for Newark. So I'm making that plea to everyone in this room that once we get to that point, we all need to be on board. And then the other issue that I really think killed us last time was that people saw all the construction happening downtown, but yet we were asking them to vote for more money. And so that message that, hey, the money for downtown is a separate pot of funds. We can't use that for neighborhood streets. We can't use that to buy fire trucks. We can't use that to buy police vehicles. We have to come up with some messaging that really clarifies. And again, that goes back to the campaign strategy. So I stand here just basically saying that I'm on board with a campaign, but we really need to be smart about it this year, and especially with the voter turnout going to be so high in November, we have a real opportunity to make sure we get a reflective opinion of our citizens. And I really do think that we should consider all aspects of hiring more police officers. For Barry, he just announced, 2 weeks ago, the new program to help with drug abuse people, the police-assisted. Okay, I use the national term instead of the local one. Okay, all right. But there's the drug abuse in our community. All of us are getting phone calls about it, and the need is. Our police officers are just overtaxed, and so I don't think that's something that we should not discuss here. I really do think that's something that we should consider, and something that we're talking about having some different proposals ready by Thursday. I'll make sure that I'll have a proposal ready and something to consider. So I just want to throw those comments out as we move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Blair.
Can I make an additional comment? Do you have something?
Let me say something. I'd like to thank Councilman Blake, Councilman Frazier, all the council members that are thinking about this issue. It is a public discussion. What I'd ask is that we pass these two out of committee, but I'd also ask this committee, the three of you, to call a special committee meeting, say for 5:30 for the 5th of July. That would be Tuesday. That way we would have an hour and a half of committee times to discuss different proposals, which would give enough time if somebody would want to bring a different proposal to the agenda. So I guess that's what I'd ask.
I guess, Madam Chair, and I would ask, and I'm open to if there's 10 different ones. I just think that if we're going to do that committee, they all ought to be different pieces of legislation.
I agree.
So we're not trying to insert this.
No,
It's clean. If somebody has a proposal, it's fine. Let's hear it all day long. And then
Absolutely, but let's start at 5:30 and propose to have 15, 20 minutes, and we can go. Because we always have time for another set of committee meetings the following Monday, and if we felt we needed to call a special committee meeting prior to the final vote, we still would have time.
To get into November vote?
Yeah.
Okay.
The way I understand it, Doug Sasson can clarify a little bit on that.
Yes,
But I believe when
yeah.
we get to November
You would
vote, we
clarify
need to
that,
proceed.
The timing, the timeline.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Rath.
I was under the impression that we had a vote on this in full council on the 5th. Is that not accurate? 2 weeks after that?
I believe it's 2 weeks after that.
Doesn't have the emergency clause.
Brian, you want to call a special committee? You call a special committee?
Madam Chair, if you'd like to, as Chair.
Special committee for
Waiving.
next
July-
Monday?
July
Or
5th.
Tuesday for
July
July
5th
5th? We
at
can do that,
5:30.
Yes. Call me.
And then,
I
You have
agree.
a question?
and
Okay.
Ryan, you agree with that, because it takes 3, I believe.
And I guess with that being said, maybe I'm hearing two different things. If we don't need the emergency clause, which that's why I was reading, I don't see it in here, if it doesn't have to be done Monday, I don't know why we couldn't come back in 2 weeks, that gives people some more time.
Yeah, I just was wanting a piece of legislation on the agenda. That's
No,
all.
I get that, but that can be on what I'm saying is, Jeremy has a plan.
Yep.
If Thursday's not sufficient time, this can be on the agenda for the first reading.
That's correct.
You can also do a committee meeting and put the emergency clause on and we meet.
That's right. Now Doug Sassen might tell us that we're wrong and can't, but I believe we can't.
So I mean, we could do it Monday, but I mean, if the emergency clause isn't on there, we could probably extend 2 weeks if somebody needs time. So, because this isn't going to the final vote Monday.
No, it's not.
It would be nice, though, to have a meeting in case there were snags or whatever we need to change or amend, and then still have another meeting. I mean, I'm not opposed to that. so.
Absolutely.
So we've got
It might be a
motion.
couple meetings. So
Are
I'd
there
ask
any
you.
other questions?
I have an additional comment. The reason why I am hesitant about the 0.25% tax, the 0.5% tax, is it's a permanent tax. You don't reduce income tax ever. It stays forever. You're taxing generations forever. By finding a way to incorporate a 10-year mill in which we can recoup everything that we've lost over the past 20 and 30 years of investment, and we can maintain that and then reduce it over time, we're never going to reduce a 0.25% income tax. We're never going to reduce a 0.5% income tax. It's going to be there forever. We have 47,986 people, 22.1% are in the poverty rate. If we put an income tax, the number one people that's going to impact is the working poor.
And those are all things that you should have prepared for your presentation on.
Absolutely will. Have it prepared for today, too.
Yeah.
And that's what the big concern is that this income tax is permanent. It impacts everybody in our community, and the people, the residents of our community are not going to get away from it. They have to pay it, even with a reduction in what the credit back is from them working into Columbus. The number one people that's going to impact are the people that are living and working in Newark, that are barely getting by, that have a household with a lot of dependents, and we're going to increase their taxes, and we're saying that property owners are exempt. And I think that we need to have a modernization of our tax code that includes property taxes, income taxes, and looks at a reduction credit, further reducing so we get more money. I think that we have to modernize our tax code to get where we need to go.
Again, we put forth a proposal, and we felt this was the best avenue to move forward for particular reasons. We are absolutely open to other proposals, and that's why we encourage you to have the committee at 5:30 on the 5th. Councilman Blake can have his proposal, Councilman Frazier can have his proposal. We're going to leave ours intact the way it is, but we are absolutely open to changes and participating.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
And I just, thank you for your work on this, Dave, and I do certainly appreciate all the work that's been found, trying to find efficiencies and doing what you can.
Thank you.
Not trying to reinvent the wheel, but that's some efficiencies. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Any other questions? Those in favor of passing on to the council?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes 3-0. Our next item is consider resolution number 1656, providing for the submission to the electors of the city of Newark, Ohio, of the question as to passage of a 1/4 or of 1% additional income tax levy dedicated to general construction, reconstruction, resurfacing, and repair of streets, roads, bridges, and sidewalks within the municipality, and to the capital improvement needs of the Police Department, Division of Fire, within the Department of Public Safety in equal shares, not to include buildings or real property.
And the reason we put that in there is so that future administrations could not manipulate and begin to pay for buildings that have already been built, or to use it to go out and build buildings, or to say, gosh, the police department doesn't need as much as the fire department, so we're going to take a little bit from the police department, give the fire department. The legislation is very clear, it's very fair, and it was worked on for several meetings with both the chiefs, and we feel as though we've met a common goal by bringing this forward in this manner.
These go hand in hand?
Yes. Yeah, the ordinance had to pass first, and then the resolution.
And then if there is any amendments or any changes or a new, would you expect a similar resolution for that
Yeah,
updated?
and Doug Sasson would prepare those, and I would encourage you guys to get in touch with Doug or Caroline if Doug's not in, because he was still away today when I reached out to him, and just have those ready for Tuesday night.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
No, I would go ahead and make a motion just because I saw the report from the applicant, Jan, while you were talking.
I'll second.
Are there any questions? Any questions from the audience? All those in favor, please send on to council.
Aye.
Those opposed?
And Dee, just for the record, you might state that we're having a special council meeting on Tuesday, July 5th at 5:30 in the Ways and Means Committee, called by yourself, Councilman Budden, and Councilman Frazier. And at that night, we'll be looking for a proposal from Councilman Blake and Councilman Frazier, and we'll move forward from there. And I'd like to thank everybody for the ideas and everything else.
Thanks for your work.
Yep.
Thank you, Chief Connell and Chief Connor. Thank you.
That we're adjourned?
You're adjourned. Good stuff.